everybody. Today we're going to learn how to write an informative essay. So what you're going to need is a cup of coffee and some note cards, a pen, and anything that you are going to use to research your paper. So in my class, we are doing passion papers. So anything that my kids write about all year long is going to be based on the topic that they're passionate about. And I have a video about that. I'll link it below, but it's very exciting. So my paper is obviously about Gilmore Girls. So I have my resources gathered. I have Lauren Graham's autobiography. I have a couple articles that I have printed off online. And then there are a couple other articles that I have found that I couldn't print, but I made sure I cited them. This is an informative essay. The purpose is to inform your audience about something that you get to pick. So I am going to inform my audience about Gilmore Girls. After I've gathered my resources, I am going to make sure that all of them have a works cited card. I'm using Purdue's website for the MLA reference, and I'm also going to have a document on that for my students. Now, there are all different kinds of ways you can cite a paper. There's APA, there's Chicago. We're going to use MLA, and all that is just a standard way to cite your paper because you want to make sure that there's no plagiarism. So to make sure you have no plagiarism in your paper, just start off with the note cards. You write the source. So my first source was this article here. And I wrote down the MLA format of how to cite that. And then I put a 1 at the top, and I also put a star. The star lets me know that this is the bibliography card. Now, while I'm researching an article that I've printed, I can underline, I can do anything I want, highlight it, and then I will write that information down on a note card in a complete sentence, a sentence that I think I could use for my paper. But I do not write it word for word. I will write this in my own words unless I'm using quotations, and then I will write that. And then at the very top of the card, I'm putting a number 1 because that's the source I got it from. So this card here is a number 4. While you're researching articles online or in a book, things that you really can't highlight or underline, that's why the note cards are so helpful. It's going to be much easier to write your paper using the note cards because you'll be able to rearrange the order in a better way than you would be able to if you just took notes on a sheet of paper. So once you've started taking some notes, you might be able to start developing a thesis. And a thesis is just one sentence about what the whole paper is about. So you want to make sure that everything you write will link right back to the thesis. If it doesn't really make sense, you either need to change your thesis or scratch that detail because maybe it doesn't work for what you're wanting to write about. Since its creation, Gilmore Girls has captured our imaginations as we have learned from characters and have been inspired to embrace the charm of a simple, quirky life. I'm going to write that thesis down on one of my cards because anytime I forget what I'm writing about or I think, does this really match up with what I'm wanting to say? I'm going to look at that thesis and make sure it lines up. Once you've decided what your thesis is, it's time to come up with some main details. And in our class, we are going to do 3 main details. How Gilmore Girls wasn't really that popular at first, but it grew over time. I want to write about the characters and how they've inspired people. And then I want a paragraph that's just about how Gilmore Girls has inspired me. So 3 main details. Now I've got a little bit of research done. I have my thesis. I'm going to go ahead and write my introduction paragraph. And I want to write my main ideas, 3 of them, in complete sentences. So here is what I have. Even though the popularity of Gilmore Girls started slowly, it has grown over time, making its fan base strong and true. The characters are beautiful and inspiring, impacting the lives of its viewers in ways unique to this viewing experience. The memories of watching Gilmore Girls in each season of my life have been a fun anchor point that has shaped me into who I am today. And then I have my thesis. This paragraph does not have transitions yet. It is a very rough paragraph. But I'm going to use those main ideas to go ahead and keep researching. I'm looking for maybe 4 to 5 sentences for each paragraph, so it's not a whole lot. And then it's time to start taking my note cards and putting them in piles according to my main ideas. So I'm going to write main idea 1, main idea 2, and main idea 3. And I'm going to start sorting my cards main idea 1 because all of these are related to how Gilmore Girls started off so slow but now has such a strong fan base. So I'm going to put that here in my stack number 1, and then I have these cards that go with stack number 2, and then look at the cards that I have that I'm not using because after I did my research and then started putting this out in order, there's a lot of information that I'm actually not going to need for my paper, and that's okay. My main idea 1, my main idea 2, my main idea 3. Then my job will be putting them in order of how I want to say that in that paragraph. So let's talk about the introduction paragraph first. I already have my main idea 1, 2, and 3 and my thesis, but at the very beginning, I need something to hook my reader, and that is exactly what we call it. We call it a hook. So think of something exciting, something that will just draw your reader in, that right away from the first paragraph, that person is gonna wanna read your paper. So here's mine, and it's really fun to use quotes. I've used a quote in mine. Oi with the poodles already. There's nothing quite like a crisp autumn day, cup of coffee in hand, watching an episode of Gilmore Girls. That's my hook. Hopefully it drew you in. And then I have my 3 main ideas that I will add transitions to later, and then I have my thesis. Okay, so we'll assume that I am finished with all of my research. I'm gonna set my bibliography cards aside. But notice, this source here came from number 2 and source number 2. That's going to help me as I cite my paper later on. So now I have these cards here. All of these are related to my first paragraph, which is going to be about how Gilmore Girls started off so slowly, but then became very popular later on. And I'm gonna put those in order of how they go for my paragraph. Now let me show you my main idea 1. In the year 2000, Gilmore Girls had a slow start, but has grown in popularity over time. The letters A, B, C, D, and E are my detailed sentences. And I have the citation right here, O'Neill, and that is the way to cite that source. I did not just know that off the top of my head. And so I put the author's name in parentheses and the period behind it. Notice the next one is a book. Even Lauren Graham in her book, Talking as Fast as I Can, I underline Talking as Fast as I Can. And at the very end, I have the page number, and then the period goes after. Okay, let's talk about quotations. You don't want your whole essay to be quotations. So when you are researching, that's why you want to summarize. Let's say there is a really good paragraph about what you want to be talking about. You can summarize that on your note card in your own words in a few sentences. And again, I do recommend that you write your note cards in complete sentences because that'll make your job much easier when you are writing your paper. But let's say there's something here that you really, it's like 1 to 2 sentences. Anything more than that, don't put quotes in there. You want to make that your own words. But let's say it's something really important that you want to quote. You're going to write that quote on your note card with the quotations so that you don't forget that's not your own words, because you don't want to plagiarize by putting those words in your paper and forget when you're writing the paper that those weren't your words. So when you're introducing a quote, there's so many ways you can do it, but here's an example. Serena Lynn from the Yale Daily News argues that, quotation, Yale might as well be the headquarters for the Rory Gilmore fan club, where the most militant of her devotees have clawed their way to the ultimate Gilmore Girl accomplishment, attending this school. End of quotation. So that's how I put that quote in there. I'm not the one saying that. That was Serena Lynn who wrote that article. And I also have other sources from Serena Lynn throughout the paper, but I didn't quote her directly. So at the end of the little chunk of information that I got from her in my own words, I'll put her last name, Lynn, in parentheses and a period. This is all still in my outline. I just don't want to forget where I got this information. As I am putting these note cards into my paper, I am putting the source right behind it. I just don't want to forget where I got that information, because now, as you notice, all the cards are mixed up. Okay, so quick recap on how to write an informative essay. The purpose of an informative essay is to inform your reader about something. You're going to have a thesis that is 1 sentence that summarizes the entire paper. So you'll make sure that every main idea you have and every supporting detail, all of it links right back up with your thesis sentence. You will have a hook at the very beginning of your paper, something to draw your reader in. And then you'll have in your introduction paragraph, your hook, your 3 main ideas, and then your thesis. Then you'll have 3 paragraphs. Each of those paragraphs has an introductory sentence, the supporting details, and a conclusion sentence. That conclusion sentence, it's a conclusion and a transition to make sure there's a good flow to your paper. 3 main idea paragraphs. And then at the end, you're gonna have a conclusion. Your conclusion needs an introductory sentence, and then you're going to summarize each of those main ideas again. All has to be different though. You can't just restate the same thing over and over again. You want to be creative with it, make it interesting. And then your very last sentence of your paper needs to be something that leaves your reader on a really good note, something that just really inspires them. And I have a quote for mine. As co-producer and writer of Gilmore Girls, John Stephens states, "The world can be a terrifying place, but in Stars Hollow you can go there and the world is this wonderful, lovely place." Okay, now once I have written my outline, I have written it in sentence form, so I'm just going to create a new document and take this, copy and paste it, and then I'll be adding in transitions. I'm using MLA, so I have my name and the page number. I have this, which is the correct way to show who is writing the paper. I have a title. Let me show you how to do a works cited. So you can go up to Tools, Citations, and then over here, add a citation source. Click whatever that source is and fill in the information, and it will make your works cited for you. If you don't have that feature, you can just write them in from your card to your document in alphabetical order according to the author's name. Okay, so I have my draft written and I am not finished. The next thing I need to do is have a peer edit my paper. They're going to be editing it first for content. They're going to go through and say, hey, this doesn't really make sense. You should probably say this way. I didn't really understand this. Oh, this was great. They give you feedback. Then you can go through and fix those things if you choose to. Having more than one person is a great idea to make sure your paper is awesome. And then after that, you're still not done. A peer needs to go back and edit for grammar. Make sure you have the right punctuation, the right spelling on things, and then you'll fix those mistakes too. Read it through one more time, make sure you have everything the way you want it to be, then that is your final draft that you will turn in. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I hope this was helpful. Let me know. Have fun writing. Bye.